There were times I was looking at myself in the mirror going, dude, why are you putting on khakis?
Where Johnny Hawley, who was blown up and killed, who had 2 children, I lived in a reality for about, I think, 15 years that it should have been me.
Your source of strength has never been you. It has always been from somewhere else. It's just my belief that mine is from God. And I choose to rely on God. And I'm far from perfect. I screw up all the time. But my life is at peace. I've found a point past the storm where I am at peace.
When things got really bad, which they will, we all are going to have times in our life where we just can't handle some things. To know that reaching out for help is an option. It's the same as going to the doctor when you can't get over the common cold and it's turned into something crazy.
Yep.
Or sinus infection. You got to go to a doctor and get medicine. It's the same with your mental health.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Bunkhouse here on Military Broadcast Radio, where we give veterans a voice. We're here live every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And with me tonight, I have Marie. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you joining me. If you would, real quick, give everybody a quick intro, who you are, what you did in the military, and kind of a quick overview of kind of the things that you're doing that we'll get into later in the show.
Okay. So, Marie Slider Henriksen, I am a recovery and veteran advocate. I do podcasting. I host my own podcast, Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie, where we interview veterans and first responders, family members, and advocates, kind of, healing out loud, PTSD to advocacy. I also just help other people to process through, not really process through, but I encourage people to process through their trauma using creativity and community. And I connect people to resources. I'm not a professional myself. I've just been through a lot of trauma and a lot of addictions. And so I just kind of support other people in finding ways to heal in their own journey. Part of my way of healing is I write. I do poetry a lot. And I was in the military. I'll just give like a real quick background of childhood into military. I had a rough childhood, including foster care, different types of abuses, rape and alcohol, drugs, food addiction, sex addiction, kind of, went through a lot of the different addictions, joined the military, married and divorced. I was a medic and deployed to Iraq for a year. And then I was medically discharged out of the Army. I was in the Army from 2006 until 2011 and deployed to Iraq with the 3rd Brigade, 2nd ID out of, it was a striker brigade out of JBLM or Fort Lewis, as it used to be, Joint Base Lewis McChord. And as a medic, I was kind of part of the cleanup crew. And I was also really lost in my addictions back then. And so I worked hard, but I played even harder, Yeah. And then my hips ended up giving out. And so I was medically discharged and then kind of hit a really low bottom for many years. And I went to school, but I was in a very codependent alcoholic relationship. I was, very much lost in my addictions. And I got sober 9 years ago. And
Say congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And in my sobriety, there's been a lot of growth that I've had to do. I've dealt with physical disabilities, emotional struggles, mental disabilities, and a big journey of spirituality, to get to the point that I'm at today. So there's been a lot of different layers, but that's just like a real quick overview snapshot, the fastest I think I've ever done of just me.
No, thank you for sharing all that. I think the first thing I'd like to talk about or kind of get to understand is you said you use a lot of creativity and kind of the what we would consider the arts space, right? And using that. So could you talk us a little bit about that and how you kind of how you got into that and what you're kind of doing with the arts itself and kind of helping with your healing?
Yeah. So I have always been creative since I was a child. Like I was always very creative, getting out of my head. I had become a chameleon. Like with
Mhm.
people I didn't feel safe, and so I always
Yeah.
kind of like put on a show of trying to get my needs met with other people. And I became very codependent and very obsessed with people, but there was stuff going on inside that I didn't really quite understand, and I used creativity to kind of help me in a lot of different ways, and it was like my way of creating a beautiful world around me, but also just trying to kind of process through the different things that I have going on because I didn't have a voice. And that creativity kind of grew into like I was just really artsy, and I loved music, but I was never really good at it. And so when I was 12, my mom put me in choir. Basically, she said, if you're going to be into music, we're going to make you good at it. And so I started doing choir first. And so singing and music became one of my favorite ways of creativity for a very long time. And, I got to a point where I was in the audition a cappella choirs. And so that was kind of, I was feeling very uneasy in life. I started with the addictions very early. I was 12. And I was dealing with some sexual abuse and got into the drugs and the alcohol and self harm and food addiction. And while I was doing that, I felt miserable. And so choir was a way that kind of I was able to feel beauty and find joy in the world and just music in and of itself. I was actually in a metal band for a while too. I played keyboard and I did like the backup vocals. But then, when I was 17, I was raped. And I kind of really lost a lot of hope then. And I didn't really know how to talk about it. I kind of felt like a split personality happened with me where I was living this very real adult life. Well, now I've been raped. Now I've had sex, kind of got into the addiction part of it, hanging out with adults. I'm 18 in high school and hanging out with adults. But then I'm
Yeah.
also trying to live this high school mentality and there was just a lot of confusion. I was in choir, I was trying to go to church still, and I would play frisbee and stuff like that. And I ended up taking a creative writing class. And I had this teacher who just was phenomenal. And he encouraged me to just write. And that kind of opened the door to me finding my voice, you
Yeah.
know. And so I started writing, but kind of, when I joining the military, I kind of like ran away. And I kind of fell away from a lot of stuff, but I wrote some poetry or wrote some music, some songs, and kind of stayed in that. But then when I got out of the military and I was just really lost with my PTSD, on top of everything else I dealt with as a child, I'm also dealing with all of these self-worth issues, being medically discharged out of the military. And I was good at it. I loved the military. I was in it for about 6 years. I loved it. But dealing with a lot of these issues, and I didn't have a voice again. And the addictions became my everyday life. And so then I decided to start doing photography. And this is actually one of my photos. I can't really pull my thing, but this is one of my photos. And this is a picture I took in Arizona. And I fell in love with
Cool.
photography. And so it was like, even if I don't have a voice, and I didn't even recognize that I needed a voice, or I didn't recognize what was going on, I knew that I wanted to find beauty in the world. I wanted to show people the beauty that I found, even though I'm feeling miserable. And so photography became my thing. And then I got lost in the addictions even more. And I kind of stopped doing any form of creativity for a while. when I finally got sober, so January 17th of 2017 is when I got sober. And as I started really delving into my mental health stuff and really delving into finding joy and passion in life again, because I didn't have it before. I was just surviving. I was just existing, and I was allowing myself to be an object and everybody else, like I couldn't trust anybody. Anyways, I didn't have love, joy, or connection. And so when I finally started opening my heart up to that joy and that connection, I started writing again. And it was like God opened up my voice in such a unique way where in high school when I wrote there was a lot of pain and it's very short and it wasn't a whole lot going on, but I didn't really get into a lot of the details of what I had going on. But when I got sober, it was like I can talk about the pain and then I can talk about the joy. And so it became this like chronicle. Every poem that I've done, starts out with this pain and the story of here is the struggle that I've gone through and here is the joy and the love and the peace, that I've been able to find. And so in doing that, I have found my voice. And last year, I had this feeling where I wanted to share my poetry. And so I decided to write a book or to compile a book. And I had decided to compile this book. And I had this feeling, that I wanted to get the book out there for other people. And, I'll do a shameless plug for a second. So my book is called More Me Than I Used to Be, A Journey to Freedom. And it's got my poems, but it's also illustrated by my own photography. And the point of this book is to show people hope through creativity, healing through creativity and community as well, because I encourage people to buy the book and pay it forward to give it to like you can buy a chunk of them and donate them into jails, institutions, mental health facilities, or to friends and family or whatnot. This book is not for me, it's for other people to show people, to how to find joy and stuff. And as I wrote that book, I got into a program that I know this is a whole lot and you could ask questions, but as I got this book and I was getting it together, I had the feeling that I needed to get my story out there more publicly, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd been doing recovery work and sharing my story on an individual basis or in recovery rooms, but not out loud, right?
Right.
As much. And so there's a program called the Armed Services Art Partnership. And that program is phenomenal. And they introduced me to a part, they host classes for different art things for veterans. And they had a class with a podcaster and his name's CQ. He is part of the WTF Nation Radio. Well, he runs it, but CQ, he is awesome. He also does Pop Culture Warrior podcast. And anyways, just a really good guy. And he kind of talked about, podcasting. And he's like, if you're not ready to podcast yourself, go be a guest. And so that led me into being a guest on the Every Day's a Saturday podcast, which led me to be a co-host with him on the section Coffee Talk, which now we are our own entity, Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie. And so I've been podcasting ever since then and sharing my story on my own podcast and being a guest on other people's podcasts. And I'm still writing all the time. And I've taken multiple classes with the ASAP program, the spoken word class and a couple poetry classes. And it's just been so amazing. And so my whole thing is healing out loud through creativity and community for myself, but also, for other people as well, and encouraging other people to find their own creativity as well.
Yeah, no. I don't remember exactly how we had met originally, but for everybody out there listening, I had Marie on, and we did one of my pre-recorded episodes that release each month. And actually, in September or October. I have to re-verify my schedule, but I think either September or October. Marie's full story on everything, her background, everything. If you want to hear her full story, tune into my show, my pre-record releases every month, September, October. I'll make sure to get that out there for everybody, get the schedule out there, make sure it's up to date and stuff. But yeah, I don't remember exactly how we met, but I know we have a lot of common people in our circle that are podcast hosts as well. And what I've come to realize, and especially after I've relaunched my show this year and really delve into it and strictly on like around mental health, is I've learned that there's a lot of us out there that use creativity in some fashion as part of our healing, and a lot of us aren't. And some people may think it's selfish. I used to think it was selfishly saying this, but and it's really not, because this is, in my opinion, the healthy selfishness you have to have for your own healing and your own well-being. Is like, this helps me with my mental health, just doing these things, allowing and talking to other veterans, allowing them to share their stories, right? Um, but yeah,
It's
man,
it's one of those it's one of those gifts that you can only keep if you give it away.
yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah,
finding joy and healing and sharing your story is the only way that you get to hold on to that healing, is to allow other people to do the same. And so
yes,
it is important to do it. It's one of those things that there's no way around it. Like, it is selfish and selfless at the same time.
yeah,
Sharing your story and allowing other people to share theirs.
yeah. No, and I say selfish in not like the negative context that most people, when you say people are selfish, right? It,
Yep.
it's I do it not only because I know it helps other veterans to talk and to share their stories, but it also helps me to talk to veterans, hear their stories, and I may learn something on something that maybe I can start doing different, or something I can add to my toolbox, or there may be something that I can share with one of them on my show, and they can learn something, or the audience can learn from both of us, right? Like, that's the way I look at it. And I think that's what's really good about like what we're doing here at Military Broadcast Radio. There's a tons of different types of podcasts on our network. And it's not just around like mental health. There's all kinds. There's all kinds of. So if you look at them, you'll see there's so many different ones. And kind of the same with when you got me introduced to Cav Arts specifically. Like, you got me into that network and that circle. And I actually just had a call with them today about some good advancements and some stuff that I'm going to be working on with them directly with the Cav Arts team themselves. And so I'm super excited about that. And again,
Oh,
it's
that's awesome.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome. For those of you who don't know, Cav Arts is another program like ASAP, and Cav Arts, they also encourage the arts within the veteran community, and they have a
yeah,
podcasting class. And the guys that run the podcasting class are a part of the Tip of the Spear, which is a podcast for veteran podcasters to get together. Like, we have a
yeah,
really amazing group of veteran podcasters out here that are just
yeah.
supporting each other. And I love that you have gotten so involved. Like, are you able to talk about the what you guys have going on?
So no, not yet, because we're still in
Okay.
the very beginning of the planning phases. So I don't want to dive too much into it. But yes, like Travis, who's Oscar Mike Radio, like he's also part of Military Broadcast Radio, but he's also an active member and part of the Cav Arts team too. So I get to work closely with him on a couple different areas.
Awesome.
And like also I got invited to be on Tip of the Spear as well, to be part of that team, that round table. So like it's amazing the folks that you can meet that you never thought you would even come in contact with, right? There's so much out there, so much. So like the veteran community, I would say at least over the last year, has really expanded, in my opinion, in like the podcasting space and that type, right? And like we've talked about this before, is like I started my podcast originally back in early 2022, and there wasn't a lot. There were people still doing podcasting, veterans doing podcasting, but it was a lot more of like the whole, what I would consider high profile type of stories, right back then. What I love is like with what you do with Coffee Talk, what I'm trying to do with like with a lot of veterans these days, we're trying to get the everyday veteran out there sharing their story, Not in
because everybody's story matters. And like
yes, 100%.
your story can help even just one person, and that might be just you tomorrow because you need to share your story. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly why we do this, is because your story matters too. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And so I think we got a pretty good little spot for a break, Maria. And I think when we come back, I want to get more into um kind of this a little bit more if you can want to go in more depth about the story behind More Than I Used to Be. Kind of some more detail behind the title of the book and then talk about the book itself, where we can find it and stuff like that. Okay. Sound good?
Awesome. Yes.
All right. And if everybody out there listening, we'll be back in about 4 to 5 minutes. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Bunkhouse here on Military Broadcast Radio. With me again, I have Marie. And before the break, we talked a little bit about her kind of background, what she did in the Army, and then how she got into the creative space to kind of help with her healing journey. And a little bit she mentioned was a little bit about her book. And I really want her to really dig in on this one now. So her book is called More Than I Used to Be. Marie, if you could give us a little bit of background on the title and a little bit more about the book itself.
Yeah, so it's actually more me than I used to be, a journey to freedom. And so if you will indulge me, I would love to read the poem that inspired the book.
Yes, please do.
I just got to get to the page. So give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
So my book, as I said before, it is my poetry, but also my own photography. And so more me than I used to be. And inside there's some different photos in there. And it's the poems that I have that I started writing in my sobriety. And with that, it's the poems up until I think it was May last year when it was published, something like that. And I'm working on another book now because there's been a whole lot more writing in the last year. But the whole idea of more me than I used to be is, for so many years, I lost myself. Like from a very early age, I never really knew who I was. I never really felt connected, and then over the years, I got into the drugs and the alcohol and the addictions, food, sex, codependency, all that stuff. And I lost me. And when I got sober, I had one of my bishops once told me, because I've been through this full emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual change in my sobriety. And somebody, one of my bishops made the comment and said, Marie, some people God molds out of clay, but other people like you are made out of marble. And when somebody asked Michelangelo how he created the statue of David, he said, I just chipped away what wasn't him. And so that's kind of what God has done with me, because I just kind of like put more and more stone on me and protected myself. But I was still there. I was still there. And I was trying to break out, but I couldn't breathe and I was stuck. And so as I got sober and chipped away all of these layers, I've become more me. And it's just been in the last year since I published this book that I really have gotten even more comfortable and confident in my own skin, sharing my story and sharing who I am. And this poem that I'm going to read that inspired the title of the book, it's called More Me Than I Used to Be. And I wrote this at a year sober. So I was already feeling better just with that little bit of clarity. Even before I went through all of these, like I've been through the psych unit, and I talked about this on my episode where I go more into details, but I've been in the psych unit multiple times. I've been through multiple types of therapy, and there's a lot of recovery stuff and a lot of spiritual journey and a whole lot that I've been through. But even after just a year, I knew that I was getting back to myself. And so that's what this poem is about. And so more me than I used to be. Excuse me. All of my life, I've collected pieces of varying sizes and shapes. I don't know why I held some close and others I hid behind drapes. Some people offered me distorted pieces, and as a hoarder, I couldn't see that even though they were part of a puzzle, they didn't belong to me. They were part of someone else's picture, usually those who were trying to hand them over to me instead of by their own box abiding. Like them, I too offered pieces to others along my path. And as I'm learning to step back, sometimes I have to laugh. There are some holes inside that make the picture hard to see. And other places I force the shape of a distorted figure of me. I know the image I manipulated is not the one God made, for he created everything beautiful just the way they were laid. At some point, I looked in other boxes, wishing mine was different. So I started mixing up our pieces, creating something magnificent. I started forcing pieces together, throwing others away, stealing some from other people, and my picture changed every day. Where I'm at now is trying to get back to the box that is mine alone. And with the help of other people, God's will is being shown. I'm learning how to pick up pieces, the ones I tried to hide, by giving them to other people or thrown away in pride, and giving them back to their owners. Sorry. I'm letting go of the distorted ones that don't fit anywhere and giving them back to their owners so their box won't be so bare. God painted the picture on my box to be the way He desired. And I'm done trying to change things. It makes me just too tired. Slowly but surely, as I get things in order, I know one day I'll find the picture that God had planned for me that got lost in my mind. Pieces are finally fitting together in the way I know He wants. He's telling me I'll be okay in my heart and in my thoughts. The only thing I know for sure is I'm more me than I used to be. And I know the final piece of art is more perfect than eyes can see.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And I love how before you started reading about when Michelangelo was asked about how he carved the statue of David, is he just took the pieces away that weren't him anymore, right? Like, I think that's I think that's a great way to look at like our healing journeys, even for ourselves. Is you take away the pieces that aren't you. It's not necessarily that they're bad or anything like that. It's just who do you want to be and what things are there that no longer kind of align with who you're wanting to be, right? And find ways to be able to strip that away.
Well,
That's awesome.
that's why I wrote that poem as like a puzzle. Because,
Yeah,
you know, I was given this puzzle when I was born. I had this
yeah,
picture that God had planned for me when I was born. But just like in the 4 agreements, right? You know, I took on other people's ideas and their agreements, and then I had to try to manipulate things to protect myself. So I stole some things from other people, and I
yeah,
tried to force myself to be what other people wanted, and stealing their pieces and getting rid of the ones that I didn't think that I wanted, and all of this stuff. And then finally, it's like, yeah, like I forced this picture of me that wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't who I wanted to be. And somewhere inside, I knew it, even though I couldn't feel it, you know? And so now I'm getting back to that picture on the puzzle that is me. And I'm feeling like what's really crazy. Okay, I got to tell you this. I had my 20-year high school reunion 2 weeks ago.
okay.
I feel old. But anyways, so the craziest thing is like I was talking to somebody who I haven't seen in 20 years, and he's like, "You know, you were one of the least oh, how did he say it? The least changes of appearance that I've seen." And I was like, "Dude, if you only knew me 9 years ago, like you would be saying something completely different because I have changed so much because I went through, you know, military and like very crude and lewd, you know. And then
Yeah,
after the military, dyed my hair blue, purple, turquoise, and then almost shaving my hair off. Like I literally had sides shaved and short on the top for a while. And I got up to 250 pounds. And, you know, like I've gone through all of these different changes. But like where I'm at now, I look more like I did in high school
yeah.
than I did 5, 10 years ago, you know? And so it's like the craziest thing because I really am getting back to me, you know. And it's just a crazy crazy thing. Like I put a picture side by side of me now and me in high school, and I look almost identical. But you put a picture of me 10 years ago and it's like, who the heck is this person? You know, like I was so swollen, I was so depressed, I didn't have light in my eyes, you know. And that's the thing, is I actually feel light and I see light now, and I'm able to share light with other people now. And yeah, it's just interesting to go through these different layers. And I'm still going through the layers, you know, still going through the layers, you know, talking to my therapist today, finding out I actually have OCD on top of everything else, you know. And like I'm still learning these different layers because, you know, as I process through a lot of the trauma, there's a lot of positive coping skills that I have now, but yet my brain still obsesses over these negative things. And so then I doubt my progress. And it's like, oh no, I'm just a little obsessive. Like, okay, now how can I challenge this layer? It's a new layer. And so it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but that's the best way. It's just interesting. And I want to say this too. You know, I feel more me.
Yeah.
But that's not saying that my life is perfect. And I have to say this, as I've talked about on some of my other podcasts, and I think I talked about with the other episode with you, I still struggle with a lot again of those obsessive thoughts. Like my most
Yeah.
recent psych unit was back in December. I did a PTSD program in January. And on top of that, I have a lot of physical problems. I'm diagnosed hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I've had to get my hips replaced. I have to wear knee, ankle, and foot orthotics on a daily basis. I just had to get a hysterectomy, which brought up a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of,
Yeah.
like just personal trauma because I've never had kids, always wanted to have kids and didn't know who I was without the ability to have kids, even though I've chosen not to have them. And, there's a lot of layers that are still coming up that I'm processing through. But the difference is I'm facing them now. And
Yeah.
I'm able to feel peace in the pain, and I'm able to find joy and comfort regardless of the shit that I go through. And
Yeah.
I have solutions now, because my solution to my internal problem was always drugs, alcohol, or other people and food. And today,
Yeah.
those aren't my answers. My answers today are diving into things and talking about it and praying about it and writing about it. And I have solutions today for my struggles. And that is where I'm becoming more me, because I'm not a slave to these outside things that they were a solution that I chose, right? But
Yeah.
then they became a problem because I became obsessive over them.
Yeah.
And so I'm just grateful for where I'm at today.
No, I love how you're talking about your growth, and there's still struggles that you go through on a daily basis. There's still things that you have to fight through and to push through, but you found ways to not fall back into those times, like times past, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to do, and I know a lot of us that are in kind of the podcasting space specifically, like it healing isn't a one-time session or a one-time program and you're all of a sudden fixed, right? And if you come out the other side and feel like you're not fixed because you went through this inpatient treatment, you can never be fixed. Like one of the things, like I think you put it really good, like with how you go through day, even still today, struggling is it's it's a lifelong healing, right? It's a lifelong process. The things that you do, like the sessions that you've been through, the PTSD clinics and the psych clinics and stuff like that, is those are just tools to get you to a better place, right? As you go along the journey. And I think as veterans, once we can accept that there's not going to be an actual fix to us, right? In a sense, to mean like they're going to wave a magic wand and all of our bad dreams go away, all of the things that happened to us go away. Like that's not realistic. And once we can accept that, because a lot of us, that's what we expect going into some of these treatments, is everything's just going to go away magically, right? Um, but
I
if we could accept that, and it's that's the first step to healing, is accepting those types of things and finding the pieces that you've learned that help you move past and not fall back into the past times, right? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you off
no,
there.
you're good. I get excited about this kind of topic because this is just so poignant for me, right?
Yeah,
A lot of people think that when you get sober, or like what you were saying, you go through these clinics, it's like, okay, I need to be healed right now.
right.
And the reality is, like, no, it's just you learn how to handle things better.
Yeah,
Like, and somebody says, things don't get better, they get different.
yeah,
Because that's the thing, is it's not that anything is really wrong or anything is really right. You just learn how to handle them better. Like, something that I like to say, and especially as I've gotten this book and as I'm doing the podcasting, is my story never changed. I became a different storyteller. I
right.
learned how to handle things better. I learned how to word things better. I learned how to see different perspectives. But I have to have, there's in recovery, we talk about that we have a daily reprieve contingent on our spiritual condition. Okay.
Yeah.
And spiritual, I don't care what you call God. I don't care who you go to for a higher power. God can handle whatever name that you call him, and the reality is whatever higher power there is out there, getting out of yourself and realizing that you are not in control of people, places, and things. That is the most important. And once you can do that, it just helps you let go of so much. Helps you let go of just so much, and
It
and
really
and
does.
it takes off pressure off of your chest, and it allows that space where you learn how to handle things better, right? And so the daily reprieve daily reprieve with the spiritual condition, right? And
Yeah.
so with that, I have learned that I have to utilize so much help. I've got my church. I'm very, very conservative Christian. I'm Mormon, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am very active in my church now. I fell away for a long time and then got active in it again, had to let go of other people's journeys and realize that this is between me and God. I also have my recovery groups that I go to. I try to go to at least one meeting every week. And I also have my veteran groups that I go to. And I also have my therapy. And so it's like I am making sure that I am consistently taking care of myself on many different layers. I pray every single day and I try to write every single day. I have to continue to do these things to help me stay where I'm at. And where I get in danger is when I start isolating and I start trying to do things on my own. And then I just fall right back into old patterns, which can lead me into relapses. Now, thank
Yes.
God I have not relapsed into the drugs or the alcohol or the over sexualization, but I have relapsed into bulimia. And I have struggled with that. And I struggle with, using other things like scrolling 50 hours a day, even though there's not 50 hours, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have to continue working on myself all the time, and it is exhausting, and I know it's exhausting, and it is fine if you have to take breaks. I talk about this on most of my podcasts that I've been on, is it's okay if you need to take breaks. There will always be more weights that you can put on to help you build spiritual muscles. But we do need rest days. And so doing that is okay, but you have to have some form of maintenance or you will lose your muscles, your spiritual muscles, your emotional muscles, and your physical muscles. And so I try to do that as often as I can.
No, I think that's awesome. And again, it's being honest with yourself up front, and for foremost is the biggest piece, and being able to identify when you're starting to have those times that you start getting or noticing that you're getting into those bad habits again, and being able to stop them before they really take off, right? And that just in itself that shows healing, right? And 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 I think a lot of the stuff that you're doing and taking the breaks and taking time for yourself, like that's the healthy selfishness that we were talking about in the first segment, right? Is you have to prioritize yourself before anything else. Like, because if you don't prioritize yourself and you're healthy and taking care of yourself, you can't take care of your family, you can't take care of your kids, you can't take care of the people around you that depend on you, right? Because again, like it's going to become so overbearing that like something is going to fail, and so that's why I say there is a healthy selfishness that you have to take an account for it, and make sure you're doing the things that work and make you better, right? um, all right, we're going to take another quick break, about 3-minute break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about more of the stuff that you're getting into with some of the local nonprofits, and in connecting other veterans with resources and other organizations on how you can help them, and them some just different resources they can get into. All right.
Okay.
So again, we'll be back here in about 3 minutes.
Wonder what was going on inside the man in black's mind. Was he missing June? Was he thinking back when that picture was snapped? Was he wishing he could hold her? Did he know his life was over the day that that camera flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash. The lines alive there on his face show hard living and show grace. A story told in shades of black. Was he whispering a prayer through that cold and lonesome glare? The day the camera flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
The lines alive there on his face show hard living and show grace. A story told in shades of black. Was he whispering a prayer through that cold and lonesome glare? The day the camera flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash. Wonder what was going on inside the man in black's mind. The day old Marty flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bunkhouse here on Military Broadcast Radio, where we give veterans a voice. And before the break, Marie was explaining a little bit more in depth about her book and what kind of led to the title. And she even read one of the poems from the book. And we'll make sure that we have all the information on how to get her book, where to get it from, and stuff like that. We'll put that in all the comment sections everywhere we're posted here. So make sure and get that out there to everybody. But now, I know you do a lot of involvement in getting veterans kind of aligned to other resources, other groups, and stuff like that. I'd like definitely let you talk about some of those organizations and some of those groups. And kind of what can they do and how can you help them out?
Yeah, so there's a couple different layers with that. And part of it is just in general, I am connected to a lot of my local organizations. And so I go and I table at events. Like on Saturday, I was just with the Marine Writers. They were having an event. So I set up a table just talking about the different resources that I'm connected to and talking about my book and talking about recovery from trauma and addictions. And they went on their ride, and then I just hung out with them and chatted with them for a while. And I've been to multiple other organizations, events and doing that. And so I'll do that where I actually go to events. And also what I do is I connect people and organizations. So as I've been podcasting, I have received a lot of information of different programs, podcasts, nonprofits, for-profits, a lot of different organizations, and then just being connected to my local community. And so what I do is like networking and advocacy calls. And so people will call me, and it'll either be an individual saying, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is what I want to get connected to. And I'll talk to them about my own journey. And I put up the caveat all the time. I am not a professional. This is just my experiences. Here is what I have utilized, and it could work for you. And oh, by the way, here are these organizations that I've heard about. You do your own research on them, and decide what will work for you. But based on our conversation, let me get you connected with these resources.
Yeah.
And so that is one layer of it. The second layer is organizations will contact me and say, hey, this is what I have available. available and I would like to get connected with other resources. I would like to partner with them, or I would just like to be available for you to let other people know. Right. And then there's also the layer of just me as a veteran and as somebody in recovery. I attend some of these organizations and their different groups and stuff like that just for myself. I've been
Yeah.
on different retreats, the PTSD program, I go to monthly dinners and bowling nights and movie nights and stuff like that just for myself. And so there's all of these different layers. And as I was getting to know a lot of these different organizations and my local community, I kind of had it in my mind that I was like, most often than not, when I am talking to a veteran about a resource, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was available. I didn't know that was available. I didn't know that was available." And I get that all the time. And so then I started realizing, like, why is this stuff not so readily available? And especially for veterans that are getting out of the military, there are so many that they don't know which way to turn. I was one of the very few, very blessed and lucky ones that got medically discharged. So I was already within the VA system. So I
Yeah.
already had some contact, but there's so many people that are getting out and they have no knowledge of what resources are available through the VBA, which a lot of people don't understand. There's a difference too. There's the VBA, the Veteran Benefits Administration, the VHA, the Veterans Health Administration, and then you've got civilian organizations and nonprofits or veteran-run organizations. And so there's these three big layers, and some of them overlap, but they're all separate. And there's not a really good way to I can't think of the word, coordinate them or to navigate them. There's not
Right.
a real good job at navigating them. And I know that other programs in the past have worked on trying to find a way to navigate that and to get information, into the hands of the service members transitioning. But I had this idea. I have started what I call the Veteran Database Think Tank. And I had this idea. I don't have the energy to run shit. I don't. And this is one of the things I will say this and yell it. I am not officially a part of any organization except for my own organization, Slider Babe, and my podcast, Coffee Talk. Okay. I am not
Yeah.
officially in charge of anybody. I'm not officially affiliated with anybody. I am just me because I like to be able to tell everybody, all of the organizations that are available. But I also just don't have the energy to run anything. And
Yeah.
so what I have done is I have gotten about 10 different organizations with about 10 other ones that are kind of like watching what's going on. And we meet up once a month and we are working on a database that is going to bring together all of the organizations. So it's going to be an interactive map. And we already have the basic kind of started. Chris Conway is the guy's name that is doing the actual all the technical stuff, and he is amazing. Shout out to him. But we are going to have an interactive map that has access to the VBA, the Benefits Administration, the VHA, and a lot of these nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations. It's going to have the VSOs. It's going to have a section for online resources and podcasts and stuff like that. And it's going to have its own internal rating system where people who visit the organizations will say, this was helpful, this was not. And so it'll be like that. We also, as we put the organizations on there, we will send an email to the organization where they can contact us to make changes and updates and stuff like that. So we're going to get them involved with it as well. And our whole hope and goal is to get this into the hands of the Transitional Assistance Program in the military. And so that when people are getting out of the military, they get this, like when they're going through TAPS, they can be like, hey, here is this resource that's available. So people can't have that excuse of, I didn't know anymore.
Yeah.
We want it to be at their at their fingertips. So when they say, hey, this is where I'm moving to, we can say, oh, here is this map. Look at here. And here is what a lot of the organizations, we know that it's not going to be perfect. We know that it's not going to have everybody in it. And we know that it's going to be a long process getting it together. And we're going to be utilizing AI, scraping the internet and a lot of stuff. There's going to be some mistakes, and it's going to take a few years for it to actually get, get very well ran. We understand that. But the idea is just to have something there that is available for people so that we don't have that excuse anymore. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now. So if you are interested in making sure that your organization is on there, if you're interested in helping us to get this collaborated, if you are interested in helping us get it into the hands of the DOW and all that stuff, contact me. You can email me, marie@sliderbabe.com, sliderbabe.com. If you can schedule a networking call with me there, and I can send you all the information for the monthly meeting. We're hoping to go live next June with it, and we're working on it. But sliderbabe.com is also where you can just schedule a networking call with me if you have a resource you would like me to share to individuals, or if you are an individual looking for resources. Now, I work a lot with veterans. I specialize with veterans because I am a veteran, but I will talk with anybody who has trauma and addictions, and that is the thing that I do is like, I am just a sick mofo out here helping other sick mofos. That is what I try to do. Not a professional. I am just a peer. I don't even have a peer support specialist, certification. It is literally just me saying, hey, here's how I have been able to stay alive and stay sober through a lot of shit. And let me help you be introduced to organizations that might help you.
No, that's awesome. I love that. I love that you're doing it. And I think what you're working on with that kind of consolidated resource kind of platform, I think is like that's way overdue for somebody to start putting that together, right? Because we all know, and I'm glad you brought this up too, is trying to get that once it goes live, getting that out to like the transition readiness seminars and stuff across the Department of War. And because again, we all know like it's a very check in the box style of kind of classes, if you even want to call them real classes, for a week at most, five days at most, and that's the longest that you go. And it's like for me, I went through the retirement seminar because of my transition out with my medical board and stuff like that. And I already had like a job lined up. And so literally I went for a day and I learned what the VA is, but that was about it. Got like the website to the VA, but that was really about it. There wasn't a whole lot that they really went into depth for, nor did they really give you a list of other resources once you get out. And I think that is invaluable to veterans, and then, like you said, transitioning service members getting out is like, because again, we joke about this and we kind of say it kind of tongue in cheek sometimes. It's like you don't know what you don't know, but it's the honest truth. And if you don't know that there's resources out there, because there's resources out there that are nationwide, right? They're like like a lot of the major like organizations that do stuff all across the United States, but then there's also like small local resources that people don't even know about,
Those
right?
are my
Because again,
favorites. Those are my
yes,
favorites. I love it.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I love what you're doing with that, and I can't wait to be able to bring you back on when that starts getting more into the. I want to bring you back on, and we're going to talk specifically about that only in the future. I really want to bring you back on to get that more out there, because I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be good, and like I've had conversations with people before, like we learn how to be a soldier. We go to basic training, but we don't learn how to be a civilian or a veteran.
No,
And
no,
so, there are some really awesome organizations. I'm going to name drop one for a second. Stick
right
Vet.
here.
Okay. If you get a chance, look up Stick Vet. And Stick Vet, he was a combat mental health specialist that creates a comic of the demons that we carry when we get out. And then he has what's called Stick Nation on Discord. And with that, he hosts what he calls not a counseling groups. And in those not a counseling groups, it's basically peer support, teaching us how to be veterans and teaching us how to support each other and teaching us how to speak what we have going on and not be consumed by our trauma, and teaching us how to actually embrace the warrior spirit. Not just I was was in the military, now I'm not. But actually, what is that warrior spirit? So Travis Landchild, stick vet, he's amazing. He just traveled the whole country and came and visited me personally and a couple other people all over the country. Really good guy. But there are resources like that out there where people are teaching you how to be a veteran. And I think that it would benefit, the military at some point to have a class of, here is how you become a civilian. Here is how you become military. Not just here's the basic check boxes, but actually like teaching us how to do it. And I wanted to say, with the database, right? I know that there are other programs that have created similar things. I had one person, contact me and said, "Hey, we have basically the same thing for veterans and first responders." So I have him contacted. He's talking with Chris to try and see how we can either copy some of the things or we can collaborate, connect to it. So if you have a database like this, we know that other people are having these ideas.
Yeah.
But it hasn't become super well known yet. So come join forces with us. Let's connect our databases together. Tell us what you have done that has failed. Tell us what you have done that succeeded. And, we're not in competition. We are all out here trying to help the next person. So contact me, let's collaborate.
No, absolutely. Again, I love that, and that's one thing I've learned about the veteran community too. Just real quick before we kind of start wrapping things up, one thing I've really learned about the veteran community, especially the online presence of the veteran community, like nobody is out there trying to outdo one another. Everybody is trying.
You can't say nobody because there are
Oh,
assholes
okay,
everywhere, and I have
okay.
had people try
I
to
will
tear me
say,
down.
I will
Most
say,
people.
I will say, I guess I've been very fortunate with the network that I've started to build around me and getting incorporated into. That has not been the attitude, right? They've been very like nobody's trying to outdo anybody. At least again, that's my experiences, the ones that I've been around with so far. Um, the majority, I should say, then maybe not
Yes.
everyone, but I would say the majority, they're not out there trying to outdo one another. They're out there to collaborate, support each other, get the messages out there, right? It's a big family, an online family,
Yes.
really.
It's been wonderful. There has been some amazing support, but I just have to say that there are the assholes out there. And
Yeah.
as you are healing, and especially I want to say this for like people who are trying to heal out loud. Right. As you're trying to heal out loud, whether it be podcasting or singing or writing or whatever it is, as you're healing out loud, there are assholes everywhere. But I promise you that is not the majority. So try to push that to the side and keep going and keep following. And that's the biggest piece of advice that I could do is follow your heart, follow your higher power, and keep healing regardless of what your brain says and regardless of what other people may do, because there really is so many people out there that want to heal and want to support you. And like John was saying, there's the majority is just super supportive. We're not out there fighting. We're out there trying to help each other. And so keep fighting through the bullshit. Keep fighting through your own mind's bullshit and just keep healing.
Absolutely. Again, Marie, thank you so much for sharing everything about your background, kind of what got you to where you are a little bit, and then your book. I, I love it. I can't wait to hear about your new book once you get to a point where we can really start talking about it. I'm gonna have you on again. We're gonna talk about that one too. Like just that's and again, that's what we do here. We support each other, promote each other, help each other through the growth and the journey, and then for everybody out there, if you want to get in contact or just look Marie up, again, you can go to sliderbabe.com, get all of her information, all the platforms, social platforms she's a part of, podcasts that she's a part of, all those resources and everything as well. And then for, again, everybody out there listening, go out there, follow us on YouTube, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you can find us. Try to go out there and follow us, share us, make some comments, give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to talk about or any other guests that you want me to bring on. And then one thing I always like to close out with, if there's anybody out there listening, and again, not just veteran specific, but just anybody out there that's struggling, feels alone, please know that you're not. Reach out. You can dial 988 to the crisis hotline. Dial one after to get to the veteran specific crisis hotline. There's also out there a 1-800 number to get out there for anybody that's hard of hearing as well. So again, you're not alone out there. And as always, be the light in someone's dark.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.
Wisdom to share if you listen this week, so pull up a chair and stay for a spell. We're heading down a trail where good stories dwell.